Cannondale has a preference for the unique. They're kind of like the Apple of bicycles because they often invent solutions for problems many people claim don't exist. Their Lefty fork is an example of this, but I have a weakness for Cannondale and all their unique solutions. So when I saw this at my local bike shop, now let me say, not trying to claim there's a conspiracy, but the local bike shop knew I was coming in around a specific time and they transferred this from their Tuscaloosa store, so I'm just saying there's a conspiracy. But either way, a bit of selective trading later, and this 2006 Cannondale Rush 3000 is mine. And this bike has quite a bit of uniqueness, more so than just that Lefty fork. An example of that is that this was handmade in the USA. I mean, post mid-90s, how often do you see that on anything? It's also amazing how much of this bike is intact after 13 years. Other than tires and grips, the only thing that's been changed that I found was the handlebars. Originally, this bike came with FSA K-Force carbon bars. Someone replaced those with smaller bars and a chrome stem, but I wanted something more native to Cannondale. So when I was searching for Cannondale grips, I came across this. Cannondale C1 carbon handlebar. Got this for $28. And the same day I found the bars, it was double luck. I found an original Cannondale head shock stem. So 2 components in, and I'm already at one of the odd things. The shifters, these are Shimano XTR, and you may notice that they're only a brake lever. That's for the hydraulic disc brakes, but that lever is also the shifter. Up and down for shifting and then squeeze for the brake. Okay. We're just getting started here on the different because we moved down to the head tube and the headset. You know, some people like a straight steer and some people like a taper. This is both and yet the same. It's technically a straight tube, so it's a straight steer, but it's a system integration setup, so that makes it 1.56 inches, which is larger than the 1.5 taper, which I guess is good. And then we get to the big ticket item, that Lefty fork. I think there are 2 or 3 generations of the Lefty, and I know there's a 2.0 and an original. I don't know if the Lefty Ocho is part of the 2.0 or not, but pretty sure this is a first generation. Even so, this is still an air fork, and though it looks bulky, it's really not. It's also very lightweight, which I think is one of the main arguments for having a Lefty other than just being different. And aside from the lightweight and just the unique coolness, another benefit of having a Lefty is that you can change a tire or tube without having to remove the wheel. Speaking of tires, this has Bontrager XR2 Team issues. I did mention it came from a Trek dealer. You can see that these are 26-inch wheels, and that may be a turnoff to some, but I cut my trail teeth on 26ers. I feel more confident there even to this day, so I look forward to some 26er fun with a Lefty twist. The wheels themselves are Mavic Cross Max, and those have alloy blade spokes. I think these are the first blade spokes I've ever owned. And before someone comments it, yes, there is no quick release on a Lefty setup, but they engineered the wheel to be easy to remove. You loosen 2 bolts to take off the caliper, then remove the axle bolt, and the wheel slides right off the spindle. And the frame, this is an alloy frame, and in 2006 you get your choice between blue or a raw finish, and this is the raw. The raw is bare aluminum with a clear coat on it that has a black tint. And it looks super cool, and I'm still amazed how well this bike looks, especially the finish considering how old it is. The graphics are perfect too because they're hidden under that tinted clear coat. And that clear coat has a special effect because when light hits it a specific way, all the black changes to white. And it not only changes colors, but it also reveals hidden text. The drivetrain kicks off with something I added myself, and that's Fuker pedals, aluminum ones. Now I'm in love with these, they're my new favorites, I'll put a link in the description, but I think they match the bike, and specifically these crank arms, perfectly. This is a full Shimano XTR drivetrain, and on those crank arms is some of the only wear on the bike. This needs a front derailleur, because this is a 2006 bike, so it's a 3x. And the rear derailleur, also Shimano XTR, and that's paired up with 9 speeds, so this is a 3x9. This is also a full suspension bike, and the rear shock is a Fox Float RP3. And the cables, well, a cable is somewhat internally routed, but most of them are external. The seat post, this is carbon like the bars, but I'm not sure this is the original, and I know the saddle's not, but I may swap that out for a Cannondale fabric saddle. So as you can see, there's lots of unique, it's in amazing condition, and wear parts aside, only the handlebars and seat post aren't original. So how is it riding a Lefty for the first time? I did make a mistake. I started reading reviews and comments where people said that a Lefty was disorienting. Combine that with those bizarre shifters and I was a bit concerned at first, or at least for the first minute or so. So I started out on the easiest warm-up loop to make sure I had the hang of everything. And that shifting, it does take some getting used to. I don't know if it's good or bad, it's just different. And the fork didn't seem to be an issue on the warm-up loop, so let's see how it does on the actual trail. So off I go, hoping for the best, but not really knowing what to expect. And my biggest concern was that fork would put all the vibration on one side of the bike. But not only is it exceedingly smooth, unless I looked down, I wouldn't know I was riding anything other than a traditional fork. But looking down, I wouldn't say it's disorienting, but it's definitely a slight bit of bewilderment, at least for the first few peaks, and it does lead to a bit of early tensing, at least for me. Especially when looking down on trails that slope with a hill. And that's most noticeable on hills that have a slope on the non-tube side. I said the ride was smooth in the front. It's also smooth thanks to that full suspension, and I wouldn't expect anything less from a bike that's Fox powered on the rear end. It's smooth enough that, aided with my 26er Confident, I even hit some of the faster powerline sections of the trail, ones that I'm supposed to be restricting myself from at the moment. It's also a great climber, so great that I decided to tackle the hill that I can't normally get up, and I would have made it except for...
Ooh, shoulder, ow. Ooh.
Along with the excellent shifting, it's the fact that the bike only weighs 25 pounds that helps me climb so well. Now, I review a lot of big box bikes, and I think they're a great entry platform for people that aren't sure if they want to get into cycling. But there is something to be said for spending on a good bike. This was $5,000 in 2006, and it just meshes together so well. The rear suspension, the drivetrain, the lightweight, all equals a very pleasurable ride experience that's far more modern than the bike's age. And I can tell I'm pushed to new levels of pleasure on a bike when my first ride leads to an adventure session. That means I'm jumping off the regular trail and exploring the new parts. Like the new section they're clearing out at the trail called the Quarry. This is a pretty big area to be adding to the trail, and I can't wait to see what it turns into once they've got it all cleared out and trailed up. Plus, it'll make an excellent picture backdrop for some upcoming bikes. You don't see anyone else in this footage, but it was a busy day on the trail, and multiple times I heard people comment, "Look at that fork." And it was funny, but at the same time we all like attention paid to our new bikes, even the new old ones. And I say that on a personal level, because I enjoy the looks on people's faces when they see me out on the trail on a big box bike. This is that times 10, plus I like looking down and seeing my freak fork. And I expect this fork to be getting lots of trail time. That's because I really like this bike, not just because of the unique aesthetic. It's so smooth, it's easy to ride, and that 26er Confidence just appeals to me. And yeah, because of the way it looks too. I'm going to leave it as it is pretty much, but I think these bars may need to be shaved down about 10 millimeters. And I may replace these Bontragers with some Maxxis cross marks like the bike originally shipped with. And it's also awesome that handmade in the USA thing. I mean, it's just not seen on the trails much anymore. And I'm still floored how good the finish is on that handmade frame. And I'm also in awe as to how beefy it is, but yet how little it weighs. And this is a light bike. I think it's 25.6 pounds. And that's including those Fuker alloy pedals that I added. I'm also well pleased, even though this is a 3x drivetrain, it's a 3x that I can work with. And as I mentioned earlier, I didn't expect anything but excellence from this Fox rear shock, but I do hope it's still serviceable. I mean, it still looks new or newly serviced, but hopefully that's something I don't have to look into for a while down the road. And the same goes for that Lefty fork with its air suspension and alloy and carbon construction, and though it's possibly first generation, it too is in great shape. And I hope it's a long time down the road with it as well before I have to worry about serviceability. As far as those shifters go, they do work well. I didn't have any accidental shifts like I was worrying about while I was braking, but I do believe trigger shifters are a better design. And that seat post, even though it's not original, I'm probably just going to leave it because it does work, and I mean, how often do you look at a seat post? And because it's comfortable, I'll also probably keep this saddle until it wears out, and then I'll replace it with a fabric. That specialized bottle cage, however, that's gotta go. I like the color, but not the design. But that's all nitpicks because the bike rides so well. And pleasantly, after the second or third look down, the missing fork tubes on the right side really don't matter. So I like it, and I'm always happy to be riding a Cannondale for some reason. I don't know when, why, or how I developed that affinity. Whatever the reason, I'm in with the Lefty crowd now. Cannondale, if you're watching this, you should totally send me a new one to try out. I mean that, you really should. But for now, I'll make do with this Rush 3000 in that raw aluminum finish. So what do you think? Is a Lefty alright? Alright. And what do you think about this bike? Is it a snore or a score? Comment below and let me know. Wow, that's a lot of rhymes in about 3 sentences. But anyway, thanks for watching and have a great day.